Hello and welcome to another video. In this one, we're going to be talking about str.translate, which is kind of a weird method in Python. I find that it's not that useful, or at least not that used very often. But I'm going to explain to you all the ways that you can make it work, as well as bytes.translate, which is related but completely different. But anyway, let's jump into it. Okay, so for today's example, we're going to be reading a lot of the documentation because I think the docs actually do a pretty good job of explaining what this does. So what string.translate does is it takes an input string and a translation table. Now this translation table is a little bit weird and kind of difficult to set up manually. So there's actually this str.maketrans function as well, which helps you in setting up this translation table. And what this translation table is it maps Unicode ordinals, so integers that represent particular characters in Unicode space, and those can map to either other strings, so it'll get replaced with those other strings. It can map to none, which will remove those characters from the string, or it can map to, or it can not be in the mapping, and then that character is just left alone. So those are kind of the three cases there. You can manually build these tables yourself, but I find that they're a little bit clunky. I'm going to show you a few examples, though, where we manually build the table. And then we'll go to Maketrans and show you how to make tables a little bit easier. Note also that it doesn't have to be a dictionary here. It could be any sort of object which implements getItem. So you might use getItem to implement your own, special logic. And I'll show like a half example of that as well. Okay, so let's start with just kind of our basics. So I'm going to write an HTML encoder here, basically something that's going to escape out, angle brackets and quotes, which is commonly done in, XSS protection. Now, of course, I would not recommend you write this yourself. Like use some libraries such as Markup Safe, which does this for you. But let's make a string to start here. Hello world script alert 0. Alert hi, I don't know, something like this. Maybe somebody is trying to inject our code using this particular string here, and we need to make sure that it's escaped properly. And so I am going to make a translate table that's going to translate these angle brackets and these double quotes to be their HTML entities. And so the table that I'm going to build for that is going to be this. Word less than is going to map to ampersand LT semicolon. I guess we would also want to map word greater than to ampersand GT colon. Double quote to, what is it, ampersand QUOT? Is that what it is? I don't remember. It's been a while. And of course you also want to map ampersand to ampersand AMP semicolon. Of course, I have screwed this up. I'm supposed to do word here. And again, this is why making these tables is a little bit annoying because I'm manually having to call word here as well. So we have our table now, and if we do s.translate using our table, cool. You can see that we have HTML escaped the script tag here, and so if this were to render in the browser, you of course would get the actual less than and greater than characters here instead of executing the script, which would be not great. But this is kind of like a very simple example of translate. Note that I had to manually call word here, and that was a little bit annoying. This maketrans actually makes that a little bit easier. So if we look at maketrans, if we pass one argument, it must be a dictionary mapping Unicode ordinals or characters, strings of length 1 to Unicode ordinals, blah, 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 the other things. So we can actually use this same table up here, but do str.maketrans, and then I don't have to do this annoying word stuff here. Maketrans will just do that for me. I find this to be a little bit easier to work with and understand. So if we do this, and close this off, you'll see that our table is the same as it was before. So that's what, if we look at word of less than, that's going to be 60. And so it just replaced this out for us. And if we do s.translate again, you'll see that it still does this again. And interestingly, and this is unrelated to the problem, but if you translate twice with this, you'll see that we get double escaped output here. And this is a very common mistake in in XSS protection. Although it is a safer mistake than under escaping, because under escaping means you're getting XSS'd. Over escaping just means it looks ugly to users. So usually you want to err on this side of caution rather than the other side of caution if you're worrying about that. But anyway, use a library to do this. Don't write your own translate like this. But this is just a simple example. Now, this make trans actually has kind of 3 different signatures. So one is when you pass one argument. When you pass one argument, it has to be this mapping thing, and it will convert it for you. Or I guess it has to be a dictionary mapping. I assume it actually means dictionary, but it will do, translation there. If there are 2 arguments, they must be strings of equal length, and it'll map one character set to the other. So if we wanted to do like a lowercase to uppercase translation, we could do like table equals str.make. Let's import string first. Table upper equals str.maketrans, and again, you would just use .upper. You wouldn't really do this. Is it ASCII lowercase and string .ASCII uppercase? And so it made this thing for me. Interesting that it used numbers there. Oh, I guess it uses numbers because it's cheaper in that case. But anyway, here's an uppercasing table, and if we did like hello world and did translate table upper, you can see that it uppercased it, left spaces alone, etc. And then there's a third form of this, which is the third argument here, which allows you to drop characters, and so it will map those to none. So if we wanted to, I don't know, if we wanted to drop any punctuation, so maybe we did string dot punctuation, and so now if we do hello world dot translate table upper, you'll see that it removed the punctuation here, and so that's kind of what your third argument is there. Now you can actually override we talked about it a little bit earlier, you can override your mapping to be any sort of thing which supports getItem. And so let's say that we wanted to implement a hex encoder using this. You could make a hex encoder using this probably. Let's see. Class hex encode, and we are going to override getItem and character, which is, what did it say that it's going to receive? It's going to receive str.translate when indexed by Unicode ordinal. So this will be an integer, and we need to return back either none if it is if we're deleting the character, otherwise a new string, or a error when we leave it alone. So we're just going to translate everything. So we're just going to go to str and leave if we do hex this hex int hex ord of this. Yeah, we'll get this back. We kind of don't want this first segment here, so let's just do return hex. We don't have to ord because it's already an integer. And so if we do str dot, let's see, hello world dot translate hex encode. Pretty silly, but anyway, there's a silly example where I'm making a dynamic translator. We probably don't want it to actually do the OX in the beginning. Maybe this will look better. Yeah, there we go. There's kind of a hex encoding of this. Of course, it doesn't work for like our buddy the Unicode Snowman is not going to work so well here. It just goes back to 603. I guess that makes sense since that's the Unicode ordinal. But yeah, it doesn't quite work the same as the character code. But anyway, that's str.translate. There's also an equivalent one for bytes.translate, which I've literally never used. It is used internally for the single character encoding, so things like Latin 1 and CP1252. But this maketrans has to be 2 byte strings that are the same length, if I recall correctly. And this translation table has to have a length of 256, so you have to map every single one of the bytes. Oh, I guess you don't? Wait. Huh. Okay, I guess this has a completely different signature. But anyway, you can follow this. I don't really find that this is super useful, so... Anyway, that's Translate. Hopefully this was helpful. If you have additional things you want me to explain, leave a comment below or reach out to me on the various platforms. But thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.